Hello, everyone. I have a few photographic artifacts, including this wonderful picture of some sunflowers that I took at some point in the past. I had a picture wall in my old apartment. I painted that wall sky blue and had all sorts of nature pictures on it. I don't have that feature here in my house now, but I just found this when I was poking around in the basement, and I thought I should brighten up a winter day with this picture of sunflowers. I'm going to do a little discussion about the legal process of getting divorced when you discover your soon-to-be ex-husband's cross-dressing, or if he makes an announcement. It's either a discovery or a revelation. This is something that I pointed out to the filmmaker Vaishnavi Sundar when she was interviewing me and 29 other trans widows for her upcoming, soon to be released documentary about us, which is called Behind the Looking Glass. And you can see a trailer of it at her channel on YouTube, which is called Lime Soda Films. I guess lime soda is a special refreshing drink that they have in her part of the world in India. Um, and her story is kind of interesting too because she experienced cancellation as an up and coming new filmmaker when she made her four-part series Dysphoric, which I think was supposed to be released as a feature-length film about her teen years when she experienced body dysphoria, which was at least partially as a result of being sexually molested by an older male relative, which unfortunately is apparently all too common. Over there in India, girls are not protected. I mean, all over, girls are not protected. We really have to keep our eyes open and protect all children, boys and girls, from molesting adults. I no longer call them pedophiles. I call them child sexual molesters. I feel that anything with the word philia in it is not a negative enough word for what is sexual molestation. Um, so I am giving some advice actually to recent trans widows who have contacted me through my blog, utahagengrasswidow.wordpress.com. There's a contact form there, and that's how people contact me. I have recently also been contacted by mothers of daughters who have gone down the road of cross-sex ideation and done themselves some damage and engaged in estrangement, from their own mothers, and I'm familiar with that. As I live through this period when my sons are distancing themselves from me, I nevertheless am not going to shut all of this down. It's just too important to get the message out about how dangerous it is to medicalize an ideation which is a psychiatric illness. And it could be treated, I believe, with dialectic therapy, cognitive behavior therapy, and some kind of somatic, meaning mind-body movement focus. I have my playlists, which if you click on Uta Hagen over here, and then on the playlist for the wellness moves, those are my suggestions. And interestingly, I was talking to Ryan Pennington recently of the Ryan Pennington YouTube channel, and he was telling me that he was even trying out some of these movements, and I gave him some tips for simplifying it in the situation where you have some tight muscles or you haven't done stretching or this kind of movement before. So hopefully I'm going to appear in an interview on Ryan Pennington's channel, and I really want to encourage men to start talking about this too. It's not just a women's issue. It could involve your relative, your daughter. It could be that your sister is, you know, being affected by this, where her husband is gone down this, what I call the glitter rabbit hole. I'm also, along with my photographs, I'm going to show the box of the 10 pounds of legal papers. These papers, in terms of what they cost me, what their actual financial cost was, for the three big cases, the divorce, then when Nettie took me back to court to squeak out of paying child support by falsely claiming to be unemployed, and then when I took him back to court because he was refusing to pay 1 cent of our older child's college costs, and I had specifically, limited the children in their expectations of where they can go to college. I said, you really need to go in-state. I will not sign loans for you to go to a private school or for you to go out of state, which is not the worst thing to have this discipline. It happens that 2008 and the crash at that time came right when my older son was in college, and all of a sudden I was so smart because I wasn't accruing debt for some fancy school. He was actually pretty upset with me when he was a senior in high school, and I made that limitation on him. But I'm glad that I did. I did kind of force Nettie to pay a little less than half of the costs. It's hard for me to calculate because he would not pay for anything that I couldn't really securely document. And I did things like taking my son and his roommates out to buy groceries and out to dinner and make dinner at their place, and we actually had some really good times when during my son's college years. I was appreciated at that time for being the main support and giving them some extra cash and helping them, and I actually influenced them to get jobs in a local bicycle store. They did really well with all of that. And I'm still proud of them. I still love them. And I think that one day this entire cult, this ideology will start to collapse under its own weight. It's getting pretty far out there with all the 147 pronouns and furries and things that are basically dangerous to the family, sort of child molester friendly, that kind of thing. But I'm first going to talk about. I'm just going to show a picture of the very, very newborn Ute with my mother Lorraine. I was born early. The due date was January, but I was born a couple of weeks before Christmas. And then here is Ute being a mother with the young son, and the second one came along, and they were very, very sweet. And then this is a birthday. I think it's the older one's birthday. And little friend. I remember his mother was a nurse. Yeah, so I think it's important to talk about the unique pieces of the legal process, because when your husband suddenly starts saying, I'm a woman and I deserve to be called some version of the word mother, then there are all these ramifications. And it's pretty important to dig your feet in and do not agree to joint custody. I had a lot of difficulties in terms of the separation agreement was done in a rushed way, and I was pressured, and I was assured that no one is going to give someone like my husband custody in my state. This was I sued for divorce starting in 1995, no, 96. Right after he went to Stanford University. We were trying to operate on this separation agreement, which just was too vague. He was being really, really demanding. He started out demanding to have the children every weekend, and I said, well, you can't do that because I need to have them for the Sabbath every other Friday night, and I'm willing to try to be reasonable. And I think that when a narcissist hears the mother of the children saying, I'm willing to try to be reasonable, then what he does is he takes it as an opportunity to run over you with a Mack truck. And it's not that you need to be anything but calm, cool, and collected, and anything but maternal. But trying to make some kind of compromises and stuff leads to bending over backwards and being run over by that Mack truck. And that's just the way it is. And you're going to need to get an attorney who is really willing to represent you and the children's interests. What happened with us involved a really cuckoo law guardian. A law guardian was assigned because we were not able to negotiate the schedule of the visitation and quite a few other terms regarding the children. Because what happens with these psychologists who are, affirming is that they are going into this political sphere. And the fact that the psychologist who in the initial first appointment diagnosed Nettie in secret 2 years before I knew that he was retransitioning after detransitioning, the fact that she submitted a sworn affidavit into the divorce is it's really inappropriate and unprofessional because she had never met the children. She was not qualified in any way to make statements about me. She had never met me. I'd never spoken to her on the phone. I had not had so much as an email or a text. Of course, there weren't texts back then. It's pretty important to keep all the balls in the air. It's not easy. It's just very important to keep all the balls in the air. And I'm just going to tell, this is probably going to take a couple of episodes, but one of the things that was a mistake that I made was, as I was going to the master's education program, I was allowing Nettie to come back to the apartment when I was doing my evening of classes. And I had the children ready with their pajamas, and I had a meal already made, and Nettie was there for about 2.5 hours. And then later in sworn affidavits, he claimed that he had made the children dinner on exactly those dates. He kept track of this. And of course, I wasn't writing down things like that. I was trying to bend over backwards to seem like I wasn't being the so-called homophobe that I was accused of being. So this all ended when one evening late in the semester, so he had been doing this for maybe 6 weeks or so, he came to the door wearing my apron. And then in a sworn affidavit, he claimed that he spent the evening with the children, implying that they had been over at his apartment. And so what I had been doing was I was trying to give the children more time with their father, because in front of the children at that time, this actually would have been the fall of 1995, he was, presenting himself still in his male form to the children. And he became more and more arrogant, self involved, and narcissistic as he went further and further down the rabbit hole. Maybe it's the cross sex hormones that affected his thinking, but I think it's also just the entire path. He became very, very self absorbed. I didn't really even understand what narcissism was at the time. Now, looking back, I really can identify that. So it's very important to shop around for attorneys. It's very important to, you might have to ask your parents for some financial help. It's very important to spend as much time as you can with the children, and don't do what I did and give over some of your time. It would have been much better for me to recruit some friends and get, babysitters, caregivers. That's what I did after I realized he was wearing my aprons and pretending to be me when he was in our apartment. I have a few other notes. And get a forensic accountant. That would be an expense, but it's very, very important to make sure that he's not hiding money, because I know that Nettie was hiding money and was not honest in his financial statement. So there is a further story, because I got investigated by the IRS at a time when he was not paying his child support. So I'm going to leave that to another time, because I don't want to make any of these too long. So, what I suggest is, after listening to this woo, go to my playlist and try the pelvic lift and the breathing. And be sure to get yourself out for a walk. Be sure to spend time in nature. Center yourself and be well always in mind and body.